everybody, welcome back to our show. Now, Wraith King is without a doubt the winner of the last patch. He has a massive win rate increase. He went from 52% to 56% win rate. And of course, his pick rate is now massive as well. 10% before the patch, now 20%. Which means, of course, he's kicking your ass in your pubs. And we are here again to tell you how the hell do I beat this hero. It is me and Mr. Faith. Immortalfaith, Wraith King. My God, every single goddamn game has a Wraith King in it, and I cannot wait for you to tell me how to beat this bastard.
Yes, Lux, I've been seeing Wraith King a lot as well. It's almost in every single game. Just like Sven, actually, he's a great hero in every single bracket, from Herald to Immortal. Wraith King is a safe pick and a good pick every single game.
Now, what's so crazy to me is that Wraith King was good before the patch, too. I mean, he wasn't that bad. I've seen a lot of Wraith Kings do relatively well, especially with items like Abyssal Blade, which solves some big issues that he used to have. He used to just be able to kite a Wraith King like an Ursa. Now he has a built-in blink that builds off of his strength. Do you think he needed a buff in the last patch?
I honestly don't think so. I think he was an above-average hero. I think he was pretty decent. Situationally speaking, I think in a lot of games he was actually really good, but now I would say there is literally no game where Wraith King is a bad pick.
Yeah, he is the 6th most popular hero all of a sudden in Dota 2. But don't worry, everybody at home, we're going to tell you how to kick his ass. Before we get into that, though, we have to talk about how he changed. The biggest change, of course, is his Aghanim Shard. Now, back in the day, everybody knew that Wraith King's big counter was taking out his mana, right? You buy a Diffusal Blade, you get an Anti-Mage, you get a Lion, and you're able to suck his mana dry, and then he doesn't get to use his ultimate. But this has changed now with his new Shard. After 20 minutes, it costs nothing to reincarnate. Not only that, but he spawns 3 skeletons to attack every single hero when it's triggered. Mr. Faith, is it hard to get a shard at 20 minutes on Wraith King?
It's not hard at all. You already have your main items. It's 1.4k gold slugs. It's insane. Like, Aghanim Shard is so good on so many heroes, but on Wraith King it's insanely good. I mean, on some heroes it's really bad, but there's that.
But anyway, this guy's shard is really, really good now. That was a full game counter. You could pretty much always counter Wraith King with mana drain until he got that talent. And having to choose that talent, I mean, it was a big choice for him. A lot of Wraith Kings didn't even get it. But now it's just included in the hero, which makes it super hard. Other things that have changed with him, Mortal Strike is now a passive cooldown crit ability. Can you talk about that?
It makes your laning so good. Remember the CK? His laning stage is insanely good. Well, this is what they did with Wraith King. His harassing potential, extraordinary. His farming, speed, both in the lane and in the jungle, exquisite. Like, it's beautiful. It's beautiful what they did to him. Also, they reworked Vampiric Aura slugs. Now you actually spawn skeletons with this ability, and you have insane amounts of lifesteal. This hero now has basically everything. Stronger lane than before, even bigger farming speed, both in the lane and in the jungle, and also you can pressure the enemy core in the lane. You are basically one of the strongest laners in the game.
And the skeletons also get the vampiric spirit as well. So that's... the skeletons got buffed too. And the shard spawned skeletons. I mean, the hero is absolutely insane right now, I think. I think the only thing that really changed that weakened him in any way was, like, your level 25 talent. You don't get to steal more health anymore, but you do get -2 mortal strike, so you just do more damage. Do you think that's a nerf, or... Do you think
I think it's a buff, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's for sure a buff. Mortal Strike every 2 seconds, basically... Let's say in the spawn of 3 seconds, Wraith King deals to you around 2-3k damage. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I've played games with you where you're 2-shotting hard carries in the late game. It's terrifying to face this hero, not to mention try to beat him. But yes, so why is he good? Let's just go over it one more time just to make sure that we can understand, because to defeat your enemy, you must know your enemy.
He was always good. But now he is just better. In my opinion, there is no real counter to him.
Uh-oh.
Before, Anti-Mage could just drain his mana, or the other heroes that you mentioned before. But now, since minute 20, how do you counter him? You just need to kill him. That means you need to be way stronger than him.
Yeah, but that's a big part of it, though. I mean, it does get limited for 20 minutes. So, like most carries, you can pressure him a lot in the early game, and the mana draining stuff can work to make sure that he never becomes that big monster. Like, you can still pick Lion, or you can get a Ricky with a Diffusal and then run at him, right? And then maybe before 20 minutes he doesn't get a shard. I mean, that's the time you can at least pick on him, right?
Correct. That's very true. If you actually pressure him enough in the first 20 minutes, and you limit his map, basically you take a lot of his map from him, you take towers, and then you hunt him down in the jungle. It's not easy. It's not easy. He has a team. Dota is a 5v5 game, keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, trying to get... I mean, that's so scary to know that if you don't beat this guy in 20 minutes, it is like 3 times harder to beat him. So it's not good. The lane pressure, if your guy feeds one death in a Wraith King lane, that is bad news for you. Really, really bad news. But let's go ahead and talk about other things. Now, of course, I know that he is really good because of his burst damage. I've always known this. An example being AM back in old patches used to counter him early game, but then late game, Wraith King can like 2-shot an AM, so he is actually the counter. Is that still the case here? Can you pretty much blow everything up as Wraith King still?
Well, you can do it even in the mid game now, actually. There are 2 potential builds for Wraith King, actually, Slacks.
Okay.
His skill build is actually quite straightforward. You are going to usually just max the Vampiric Spirit by level 7 with 1 point in Mortal Strike, 1 point in your stun, and situationally 1 point in your ulti. Why I'm saying situational, Slacks, is you sometimes keep your ultimate in case you are just jungling.
That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So you're getting a lot of health from hitting creeps, but you don't deal any damage because you're not putting any points in Mortal Strike, right? And you have a crappy stun at level 1. Why is the vampiric thing so important?
Because of the skeletons. Skeletons is actually your farming ability. It's not necessarily Mortal Strike. Yeah, Mortal Strike actually helps you farm, but it's not the one skill that makes you farm really fast or allows you to put a lot of pressure. You are still going to get 2 points though by level 7, of course, if you skip your ultimate. Otherwise, just 1 point is enough. After you max Vampiric Spirit, you always max your Mortal Strike. 1 level in stun, it's actually more than enough.
More than enough? Just activating it is more than enough. And that makes a lot of sense. A lot of Wraith Kings that I've played against, it's much different than playing against another carry. Because usually you'll see a carry max like their farming thing and then disappear into the jungle. But Wraith King, not so much. I see him pretty much constantly in lane pushing.
Exactly. Also, he can even pressure your tower if he has enough skeletons. If he wants to just go back into the jungle, he can farm insanely fast in the jungle with the skeletons as well. He is unique in this way. He farms so fast, but he can also put so much pressure.
Yeah, that's a lot different than a lot of different carries, because it's either one or the other for them. They either farm the jungle, get big, and then push, kind of like a Lycan, or they stay in the lanes and push and then have escapes. But this guy seems to be able to do both. So, alright, that is a little bit of a hint for how to beat him for later, but we'll talk about that later. Let's talk about item builds. What is a Wraith King trying to build so that we know how to beat him?
I love phase boots on Wraith King. First of all, I think you almost always go phase boots. I like it way more than power threads. But after phase boots, there are actually two potential build slugs. You remember the old build with Radiance? It's still, in my opinion, the best general build. Sometimes, before the Radiance, we get the Midas. Well, Midas is a good item because it makes you farm faster, it gives you attack speed. And this is what Wraith King lacks, actually. He lacks attack speed. Okay. Sometimes you still don't go for the Midas, though, in case you have an amazing game and you can get the Radiance by minute 15, 16.
It's much better than my pubs. 15 or 16 minute Radiance. Yeah, try 25 to 30 minutes, but continue, Mr. P. Well done.
After that, you follow up with Aghanim Shard. We already talked about it. It's amazingly good on Raking. Assault Cuirass, Abyssal Blade, Mjolnir, situational items that are just good for the game. In the end, even a BKB maybe. And then there is a fighting build on Raking. This is how I like to call it, the fighting build. With this build, you actually go first item Orb of Corrosion. Basically, this item, it's such a good laning item. It allows you to put so much pressure in the laning stage. It allows you to harass the enemy. It allows you basically to be extremely dominant. You follow up with Phase Boots, Armlet, Desolator, and then of course don't forget Aghanim Shard again. After that you go for Abyssal Blade or Assault Cuirass and vice versa.
They didn't mention Blink anywhere in those. Is Blink not a Wraith King items? I love it when my Wraith King can blink on top of people and stun them.
Blink is a situational item for both the builds, in case you lack initiation from your team. In case you need to be the initiation for your team, then you can get Blink after either Radiance or Aghanim Shard, or after Desolator or Aghanim Shard.
That's another strength of Wraith King, is that a lot of these different carries, they always build like the same thing. You know, PA's going to go into the jungle, she's going to get herself a Deso, and then a BKB, and then it's go time. But Wraith King seems like he could build anything in any game and still be rather relevant. Is that true?
Exactly. It's one of his biggest strengths. His ability to build multiple items and different builds, it's one of his biggest strengths.
Because it's hard to figure out what kind of playstyle that he's got and how to play around it. Alright, if he has a Radiance, you can at least know that it's going to take a while for him to get better items to be able to fight. But he might not build Radiance every time, so that's a pain in the ass. But alright, so we've come to our time. How do we counter this hero? As you've said, we think he's one of the best. We've seen the math. He is being most picked. He has a great win rate. He has any item at his availability. How do we beat the bastard?
Well, there are multiple ways to actually beat him. Illusion heroes against him. Illusion heroes, why? Most of them build Diffusal Blade, so you can actually put a lot of pressure onto him from minute 13-14 until minute 20. Then there is Anti-Mage. I also like heroes like Bristleback, Timbersaw, Underlord. Very tanky heroes that actually build utility and aura items.
Alright, that makes a lot of sense to me, because one thing that I always thought how I beat Wraith Kings personally is I just get them distracted, in a way. Big tanky heroes that are able to jump into their face and protect your kind of squishier carries in the mid to late game. Because again, I think the biggest counter to Wraith King, correct me if I'm wrong, is that he's a single target hero. He's only able to go on one person at a time and take that person down. So if you can get a big chunky guy that gets a bunch of nice auras for your team, that's a pretty good way to slow him down, am I right?
Absolutely correct. You actually said it perfectly.
So I'll start talking from experience from a support's point of view. What should you do as a support to beat Wraith King? Again, I think the best thing you could do is waste his time. The number one thing as a support to think about is that he has one target abilities. So, buy kiting items. You're going to want to get stuff like a Force Staff to be able to get people away after they get stunned. You want a Glimmer Cape to have him chase. And hell, you want stuff to stop him himself like a Yule Scepter or even an Aeon Disc and jump in front of his face and try to get him to kill you first. Anything that you can do. Because the most important thing is to know that you fight him last. As a support, your job is to make sure that every single other person on his team is dead before the Wraith King. And you do that by telling your carries to do that and disabling Wraith King for as long as humanly possible. That is the only way I ever beat this goddamn hero. And yes, that would be my advice as a support. Now, of course, I don't play carry or mid, so what would you do in that circumstance, Mr. Fate?
Well, first of all, absolutely correct. You actually said it perfectly.
Hey!
Kiting him. Kiting him is the way. Don't forget about items like Glimmer Cape or Force Staff, though. Those are insanely good for kiting as well.
Sure.
However, as a core, the way you are actually going to win against Wraith King is by not focusing Wraith King. simply ignore him. Try to kill his team. Don't waste your abilities or your time on raking. And after that, when he is all left alone, kill him.
Right, and I think that's one of his biggest strengths is that in this meta, there's a lot of really burst damage, like insta-damage heroes with long cooldowns. He's able to tank those with his first life, and then he comes back and he has his BKB ready, he has all of his items ready, and he knows that all your shit's on cooldown. So don't play yourself with that. Use those big abilities on the rest of his team, and then he has no backup, and he can't do anything. Everyone else just gets to kite him around, 4 of you running in circles. When playing against Wraith King, I like to think of him as Sven in the last patch, but without an Agnum Scepter. You wouldn't try to fight an ulted Sven first, right? You'd run away from him, and then fight everyone else, and then go back after, potentially. It's the same thing. Wraith King is just a Sven without an Ags. So well, they changed it now, without an Agnum Shard. But anyway, that's how you treat a Wraith King, right?
Correct.
All right. When should you pick Wraith King, Mr. Faith? Are there any games where he's bad? Any counters right now?
You should literally always pick Siractionslacks.
Oh,
No matter the situation, no matter the circumstances, he's literally good every single game. No matter the heroes in the game. You can situationally even first pick him. I don't recommend you to do that, but you can actually do it.
All right. So, as usual with this show, the best counter to Wraith King, since he's so broken right now, is the ban screen. So go ahead and ban him. But we're gonna wrap up. Here we go. We're gonna give you one little refresher to remember things about Wraith King. Number 1, ignore the hero in team fights. As a carry, your job is to kill everyone else so your team can 1v5 him and then get through 2 to 3 lives. As a support, your job is to waste his time. Make sure in that moment that he's not able to kill your carries, Yules him up, force staff your carries away, get them away from the Wraith King, get him controlled. Good heroes to counter the guy, people with a lot of stuns, people that can control the hero in some way, or big tanky boys that waste his time so that he's not able to kill your carry as your carry is killing everyone else. Other big ways, the first 20 minutes, get in there, tear him apart, drain that mana, and don't let him get that shard. After the shard, life gets worse. I think in every Wraith King game, you're on a timer. And that timer your chances of winning go down and down as he gets into that late game. Mr. Faith, did I miss anything?
No.
All right. Well, fantastic. Everybody out there, good luck trying to kick the shit out of the Wraith King himself. You're going to be seeing him a lot more until there is a nerf. But hopefully, this has helped. I'm Siractionslacks. This is Immortalfaith. And we will see you next week on how the bleep do I beat this hero.